Hey everybody, how you doing? Hopefully the weekend's treating you well. This weekend's video, I'm going to run through a number of charts that I like to setups for next week. So hopefully this is helpful. Put some names on your radar. And you'll notice these are all long ideas. So I have a yellow box drawn on these charts. And this yellow box is a horizontal area that has acted as support and or resistance in the past. So for the long ideas, you want to see price above this yellow box. So if it's just below it, that means it might not quite be ready yet, but when it breaks above it, that would be the potential trigger for me to enter the trade. And then also that's the area that you can set your stops around. If it's a long idea for me, I would put my stop, slightly below the yellow boxes that I have drawn here that are the key price areas. So let's get started. I'm going to run through these pretty quick. First one's DVA. It has this area here that has acted as resistance around 73 back to March. Again, there kind of pushed through it. Didn't quite have the strength to stay above it, but now it's has a shallow pullback, so it looks like it wants to push through it again. So if it can get above that $73, $74 level, I think this one has a good chance to, reclaim those highs from January. So this is one I'll be watching next week. Next one, Sprint. This one has this area here around $6 that was resistance here. A bunch of times here had this crazy candle there that's off by itself, so I'll ignore that one. But it looks like it's kind of a bullish consolidation after that huge up day. From a couple weeks ago. So this is a nice one, potential long over 6. Looks like it has some room to run up. ESIO, this is one I've highlighted a few times before, but this area, around $22 was, support down here, resistance here, kind of chopped around it there, acted as resistance in March, broke above it, and now it's kind of consolidating a little bit just above it. So I'm just kind of watching this one to see what it does. But once it consolidates and starts to pull away, this one would make a potential long idea for me. ANET, this one looks coiled and ready to go. It's getting pretty tight trading here, trading in a tight range. So once it breaks above, I don't have the yellow box here, but once it gets above 273 or so, that would potentially trigger a trade here for a long in ANET. Next one is CPRT. Simple idea here. This is a nice chart. It's in a nice long-term uptrend, no doubt about that. Higher highs and higher lows. Here it's kind of consolidating sideways a little bit. So it has this, $60 area that was resistance here. Couldn't quite push through it here. Has a nice shallow pullback, which often precedes a eventual breakout. So a shallow pullback there for a couple days. Broke above it Thursday, Friday held. So I like this one quite a bit over, we'll call it 60, 45, 60, 50 or so. So that's a nice looking chart there. CPRT, HLX. This one is a pullback trade here. 865 was, resistance here, broke above it, and now it's kind of pulling back towards it. And this level is not only the key horizontal level, but it's also the point of this uptrend line from April. The 50-day moving average is a little bit below it. So if it starts bouncing off that area, it's a nice area to trade off of. You can put your stop a little bit below that for a long. Next one here, this one's not quite ready, but I like the looks of this chart. SNPS, it has this area around, $94, $95. It's been resistance a few times. Resistance again, couldn't quite push it. Has that shallow pullback again, so maybe this one's ready to go. So I'll wait to see if it can crack that $94 level, and if it does, I might trigger along here in SNPS. AXP, similar idea, nice looking chart here. This level's about a little over $103, $104. That area's been resistance here a few times, kind of peaked above it there, couldn't quite hold it. So if it gets back above that, 104, this would be a nice potential long trade with a stop a little bit below that yellow box. EGN, energy name. I was watching this. It was just consolidating really tight, kind of waiting. They announced their earnings, so I wasn't going to enter the trade before that. And then it had a nice update with some huge, you can see a huge volume here for a few days. So I'd like to see it kind of hold above this $75 level here. Just kind of see what this one does, and then if this starts moving up, I think there might be some big time demand for these shares, so we might get a solid move here out of EGN. So that's one I'm just watching for next week. TBI, similar idea. This has this $29 level was resistance a bunch of times here. Late last year. Winter spring resistance here again in June. Here again, July, August. Just can't quite crack it, but now it's kind of consolidating just below it. It's above this, $28, $30 level. So if it can get a little push here above, I'd like to see a close above 29.50, maybe, 29.60. This one might be able to get going. That's TBI. ALSN, I like this chart quite a bit. This is actually one, these last three are ones that I entered late last week, but I'm including them in this video because they're still in very viable ranges. So this one here has this level around, 45 or so as resistance here, here, broke above it here, huge volume, kind of pulled back into it and started pulling back away from it. So I entered it late last week, and then Friday we got the close. We closed above the levels that traded a couple weeks ago. So I like this one quite a bit. Really nice looking chart here for Allison Transmission. NTR, this was a pullback trade here, so it has this area around 54 that was resistance here, kind of touched it there. Here in the summer, couldn't quite crack it. Then we had the breakout there, and then we pulled back to that level, and then we're bouncing off it. And similar to another one, this also has this trend line here going up, which is also right around the 50-day. So we have a couple. The horizontal price area is the most important in my book, but then we have a couple kind of, I guess I'll call them secondary things here at the trend line and the moving average that have potential to act as support. So I like this trade idea long over this yellow box here. You can put your stop below 54. So that's NTR. EMR, another one I entered late last week. Really nice looking chart here. Similar idea, $74, couldn't crack it all these times earlier this year, May here, June, couldn't quite get above it. Kind of pushed above it here in August, couldn't quite hold it. Nice shallow pullback, and then Friday had a really nice day, closed above that 74 level, closed above the closing price from August 7th. So I like this one quite a bit. A stop a little bit below the yellow box is what I did there. So those are some ideas I have for next week. Hopefully it gives you some ideas for next week. If you're interested, please check out ttptrading.com. It's myself and CJ Agresta. We do our best. We have live trade alerts. Each of us sends a nightly update and recap. I do weekend member videos. CJ does a lot of index reviews, sector reviews, and he's focused on the option side of trading. So you get both of us for the one low price. So please check us out. We try our hardest to provide value to our members. So hopefully these give you some ideas for next week, like I said, and I hope you all have a great week. Thanks.